a wonderful time. And suddenly, something grave happened in my life. I lost one of my cousin sisters to breast cancer. See, when I started, they would ask me, what's the title? Say, using machine learning for breast cancer detection. By the time it appeared in the agenda, breast disappeared.
Does it scare you that not enough doctors and leaving a large part of it to technology?
I'm scared about developers not taking all the controls while developing the AI model.
What legacy do you hope to leave?
I don't think about my legacy, to be honest. If people can remember that there was an Indian company which innovated and it is the screening method in the world, that would be awesome.
Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. It's a right as fundamental as our civil rights. It's a right as fundamental as giving every child a chance to get a public education. Healthcare is where we need bold and swift action in order to raise the quality and make it accessible to every nook and corner of our country. My guest today, Dr. Geetha Manjunath, believes in the philosophy of Sarve Santu Niramaya. May all be happy. May all be free from illness. May all see what is auspicious. May no one suffer. Hello and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. Today we are coming from Bangalore, our very first episode. Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and we hope to take this across the country and tell stories for as long as we can. And on that note, I will introduce our guest, Dr. Geetha Manjunath, an entrepreneur and a computer scientist. She's also the CEO and founder of NIRAMAI Health Analytixs, a startup that provides non-invasive, radiation-free breast cancer screening through AI. Dr. Geetha, welcome to the show.
Hi, Santosh. Great to meet you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Niramai, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is about preventive. Is it correct to say that preventive screening for breast cancer?
Yeah, Niramai is a startup which has developed a new method of detecting breast cancer early. So it is a tool for early detection of breast cancer.
Right.
Yeah, if you detect early, then the treatment costs are lower, treatment efficacy lower. People can live many, many years later. So from that perspective, you can call it kind of prevention, but it's more about early detection.
Early detection. AI is definitely involved in this entire process, correct? Before we get into Niramai, I really want to talk more about AI in healthcare, if I may. A few aspects of that I really want to cover, but the first and foremost being, there is this concern that with AI coming into healthcare, loss of empathy and human interactions. Do you agree?
I think wherever there's a person replaced with a machine, there will be some kind of an interaction variations. Having said that, AI in healthcare actually can make a huge difference to the humanity by enabling high quality healthcare for everyone, haves and have-nots, developing and countries wise or villages and urban areas and so on. I strongly believe in this concept or proposition of AI bridging the healthcare divide that exists between these two big communities, right? Economic or geographically located and so on and so forth. The reason being this, right? In a village scenario or developing country scenario, we don't have much skills. The skills with respect to screening for any particular disease or having, like we know that one doctor serves 1,000 families in rural India, for example, right? So when there is so much shortage of skills, artificially intelligent bots or healthcare workers who are given these AI tools can perform to a skill level which is much higher than what their actual skill levels are. So these tools can act as robotic doctors, if you will, to identify the right kind of people at the right time who require the right attention. That is, For example, if it is breast cancer, identify those women who need an immediate attention and bring them to the hospital. So you could screen 1,000 people and get those less than 20 people to bring to the hospital. So this is one way AI can help in saving lives in general, right? And particularly in healthcare, it becomes really, really useful. On the other hand, in the urban scenario also, it is very, very helpful because we have doctors and right? Many, many hospitals and expert doctors are flocked with patients. You don't get an appointment with them for weeks together, right?
True.
So those are the people who need some time to have their tea and coffee as well. So that is where you can use AI tools, which can help prioritize the high-risk patients for them. People who are pretty much looking normal in their imaging or any of those can be easily triaged even in urban setting, so that people who require attention are brought to the right expert again, rather than only normal patients, unnecessarily using up the expert's time. So there's a productivity increase on the urban side, and there is quality of healthcare increased on the rural and developing world side, which AI can enable actually.
Okay.
So
I can understand this when we are talking about urban centers, right? But when we look at rural India, I mean, let's take India's example. I feel that innovators such as you, um, policymakers, and of course, people from the medical fraternity, they would probably need to work a lot more in tandem vis-a-vis when you're looking at it from an urban perspective. Because when you talk about screening, I think because of access to a lot many tools, it's a lot easier. And please correct my understanding. For urban women to go for a pre-screening or to go for regular checkups, how do you tackle these challenges when it comes to rural India? Because that's where Niramai is trying to look at solving the huge healthcare costs.
yeah, actually, even in the urban ecosystem, people are still in the breakdown, go to the doctor only when you break down mode, right? That is illness versus wellness sort of a concept, right? So even in urban city, in fact, if you look at statistics of preventive sort of well-being, 2% of the ladies only go for annual health checkup and going to a hospital just as soon as a symptom appears, or unless it is hurting you so much, you don't go to a hospital. This is just the mentality and mindset of Indians and many other developing countries as well, because of the cost factor involved, as well as just what there's a lot of loss of going to a hospital, standing in the queue and getting that done, loss of time, loss of productivity on their own stuff.
Does stigma also
So-
come a part of it? That
So stigma for certain diseases, but it's more lethargy and okay, let me go only when the car breaks down mode, rather
Right.
than going for a maintenance every year mode, right? It's more a mindset change and a little bit related to the economics of that, right? Now, having said that, making things accessible and affordable is important for both for the urban ecosystem and rural ecosystem. So talking about what we do at NIRAMAI, right? We've developed this new method of detecting breast cancer, which is portable device, which can be used to detect breast cancer in any place. It could be in a village primary healthcare center, or it could be in an urban setting in a corporate office. You just take a conference room, set it up in 10 minutes, and then start doing the screening. And of course, we also provide private screening at home, making it so accessible that you can just order the test home, and people will, our team will come in and do the test at the privacy of the home itself, right? So accessible healthcare is very, very important, so that people feel it comfortable and easy to get to the preventive mindset, right?
I think what I really liked is when you said sometimes it can come home too, because
Yeah.
I think that's where the stigma part comes, probably where Some people are not very comfortable going to a clinic and getting that done. Interesting.
The stigma part, particularly for cancer, affects because of high quality, or rather highly expensive equipment that is needed for screening today, right? If you look at a mammogram or an MRI, it's 80 lakh, 1 crore, etc. And only specialized cancer hospitals will have these machines. So if ladies have to go to a cancer hospital every year, that is where the stigma comes into the
Absolutely.
picture.
And I think it's not gender-based too. I think even men, for that
Men
matter,
as well, right? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are some people who probably go to work having, and I think everybody can lead a normal life as long as you are taking your meds, you are taking good care of your health. But the stigma always stays, and that's one of the reasons why people don't even share that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Because you start to judge them, you start to view them differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about what the others, how others look at a person with a disease, rather than how you yourself look at. You want to sort of forget it and move on, and there's always this additional piece coming in.
Okay. First and foremost, when did the idea of Niramai come to your mind?
Yeah.
And I'll probably take that question a few years back as you grew up. And I know that you mentioned science always interested you. You always probably wanted to be a innovator, a scientist growing up, or maybe bring about a little change in what you're doing. So whichever you want to take first,
Yeah.
growing up years or Niramai.
Okay,
I'll
let
leave
me
that to
start
you.
with growing up, because then I can talk about my father.
Yeah, sure.
So basically, when I was a young girl, I have seen my father kind of, fixing everything. If he sees a problem, he wants to fix it himself. The joy of fixing, I started saying, right? So we were talking about a leaking tap, right? And if anything like that, my father would he would have a spanner, whatever, and open it up and, fix it, get a washer, put it, and I used to see him do this, and if radio doesn't work, he used to open up, and I used to peep, over his shoulder to see what is inside, how does the sound come, etc. So I have seen him sort of roll up the sleeves and then fix it, rather than, of course, there's always cases we call people to help out, but simple problems he used to fix it. And this gave me two foundations. One is, if there's a problem, try to see what you can do to fix the problem, rather than complaining and asking others to come and sort of do that. It is your own responsibility to fix it as well. So this aspect, right, whether at home or outside. So this is something that I always feel responsible for fixing. Second big thing that I learned from my father is about the curiosity of how does it work. How does the sound come out of the radio? How does how are we able to close the tap, and these kind of simple mechanics, trying to understand how does it work. That is something. And when I was in high school or something, I saw a computer in exhibition, and I typed in hello, and it said hello, and I was like super curious and super excited, and said, how is this happening? Like how does it work? And in fact, that is the reason why I started choosing computer based education. In fact, my engineering in computer analysis and computer sciences, because of that curiosity of I want to know, because it was such a big machine, and I wanted to understand every bit and part of that
And
machine.
you got complete support from your family to pursue what you wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing that I've had from my parents. After my Barui, the 12th, I did very well, and I got the best seat in Karnataka for both medicine and engineering, which both happened to be in Bangalore, the colleges. That time, BMC, Bangalore Medical College, was like really top. Even now it is. And UVC, University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering, which is again 100 years. It's now completed, I believe, as an engineering college. I got the seat in both these places. And I had many of my relatives coming in and saying, "Oh my God, you got a medical seat. It's very difficult to get a medical seat, and if you have to pay and get, it's many more lakhs compared to this. And as a lady, it's better off as a doctor and my engineer and all of that." But I've always loved math, science, and all of this. And then my father just said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do my engineering, learn about computers. He said, just choose it, go for it.
You wanted to just break open things and figure out how to
how
fix
does it work? And then I've enjoyed my life working with computers throughout the last 30 plus years, I believe now, since the day I joined the engineering. I did very well in the engineering field also. I topped the state. And again, I had this option of going and joining a job or continuing. And during my engineering, I had seen Indian Institute of Science. It's a beautiful place, so many trees and such wonderful professors. And I did my small project out there, and I was like, I want to study here. So I wrote up the exam, and by God's grace, I did well. And I did get an opportunity to study at IISC, which is still my favorite place to study, with irrespective of Harvard, Stanford. This is amazing. So that's what I would still recommend to everybody. But yeah, so there again, my father was very, very supportive, saying, please go ahead and
So you
study
pursued a master's?
Master's in computer science as well. Yes. And then I went on to join CDAC, which is the only research organization doing innovative work in computers. So what IISc does you is it builds a new love for innovation. Like every assignment is so tough. You have to think and then solve the problem. And again, the joy of fixing, the joy of solving a problem, you start enjoying that, and you want to sort of solve tougher and tougher problems. And that's what kind of, IISc did to me, I think. So I wanted to be in research. I wanted to sort of try and do something that others haven't done before. And here was a team from CDAC, which was building the first supercomputer from India. And so I was one of the members. Enjoyed a lot trying to prove how we can do better than some of the even US companies and so on and so forth. I had this sort of patriotism in me, right? Mera Bharat Mahan. I don't want to go abroad. I want to show India can do. I mean, I was like,
and
really,
India is actually doing it now. I mean, I think we always had the potential. We just needed that little nudge, which we have.
Yeah, from the beginning, it's like that. My uncle, no, you have to go to Singapore. You have to go. No, I'm going to be here. And it's okay. My father and parents supported it, and I continue to do. I enjoy proving to the world that Indians can do.
So, from CDAC to NIRAMAI, talk me through that journey of yours. I mean,
So I really enjoyed my the team spirit and things in CDAC, and then I went on to be the first research member of Hewlett-Packard Labs in India. Actually, when they started the HP labs in India in 1997, and then the idea there was to sort of go to come up with an idea, present that implementation to the US and so on. I got to travel a lot. I interacted with a lot of international researchers. And then I learned how to enjoy not just solving a problem as an algorithm change or small technological innovation, but the joy of actually making this technological innovation make a difference on the ground to somebody's life. The full line of sight from a small change in an algorithm to how it changes on the ground, a particular use case on the ground. This is something I learned from the US researchers. I would definitely, Hewlett-Packard, Palo Alto researchers. Because earlier I was thinking you sort of, coming up with an application is application, it's not fun. But when you actually see, I want to enable this application of, let's say, a fridge ordering, milk on its own or these kind of things, right? Oh, it's a toy application. No, but when you actually want to build that, there's so many complex things that we need to sort of innovate in, right? So that's how the US researchers were thinking about it, like the end problem and then try. I learned that, and I really felt that that's how research has to be done, not just publishing papers and so on.
Do you feel that change has now started happening in our country?
Slowly. That is where the startup ecosystem is growing, So you have a real problem on the ground and you try to sort of innovate from the grounds up, right? And there is more and more push for startup building, Make in India and so on. I think that's the mentality, right? which I saw in many of the international researchers, which was lacking both in IISC and at our own, my colleagues, researchers in different places. So I've been on the bad books because I was doing this simple research as opposed to complex publication, but it's okay. I enjoyed doing that. So I was at Hewlett Packard Labs for 17 years, doing, and every year going and presenting new ideas, international conferences, and getting more energized, coming back and proving, and so on. After that, Xerox Research was starting a new lab, right? And they reached out to me, and I said, why not? I switched to head their AI lab, basically.
So every time someone comes to India for the first time, Dr. Geetha is a go-to person.
I don't know. It's just coincidence. Any mad person around who can think like the international researchers, and I guess the people were pointing. And then parallelly with Hewlett Packard, I had gone back to academics, do my PhD as well, because AI was coming up and I wanted to learn how that works, and that required me to go back to maths and sort of probability theory and statistics. I said, why not go?
So you pursued your PhD in the US?
In Indian Institute of Science again.
Okay.
It's like all studies only in IISC. That's the best place. Yes.
But you traveled extensively.
I traveled
as a part of your
extensively in
PhD.
the last 15 years.
So
During
what was
HP as
your
well.
area of your thesis in your
It
PhD?
was in AI, artificial intelligence,
Awesome.
for web tasks. That's what we came up with. But that gave me the right background to understand the newer AI models that were coming up, because my master's was long, long ago. And at that time, what we learned as AI was completely different from what it is today. But it gave me confidence. And that's when AI was sort of nurturing and becoming hype to reality and so on. And so I was, selected to lead the AI lab from India for Xerox Corporation. This was more techno-managerial role because I was trying to see how things can work on the ground. That's the kind of mentorship the researchers needed. And so I had a nice 70, 80 member PhD team trying to innovate, and I had to guide them, connect the dots to business. And so it was a lab director role. I enjoyed that as well for about 3 to 4 years.
So this lab here in India,
yeah.
in Bangalore, that was set up for a global research?
Yes. It
Okay,
was for
that's
global
great.
research. And we had like 4 such labs in US, as well as Europe and Israel and here. So I had a lot of, exchange of information, exchange of projects, sharing between the different divisions. It was a wonderful kind of a world research, I would say. All was good. I could define my own projects to be done. There's a lot of independence, and I had dotted line connection to the CTO, and I had multiple meetings with the CEO of the global sort of Xerox. And, it was a wonderful time. And suddenly something grave happened in my life. That is, I lost one of my cousin sisters to breast cancer. She was a very close friend rather than a cousin sister, also Bharati. She was 42 years at that time. And suddenly we came to know that she had 4th stage cancer with all discharge coming. It's a breast cancer. And
it just happened out of this.
She didn't even tell anyone till there was blood oozing out or some such thing. And I didn't know any of these. Healthcare was just one of the applications I was working on. It was not my core thing. So I didn't know anything about breast cancer or any of these. And the doctor just said like 3 to 6 months more. Extremely shocking. Of course, she got a surgery done. She lived for a few more months, and again it recurred, and we couldn't save her second time. This shook me a lot. I said, I'm going and creating, working with my team and creating very, very novel solutions for making Disneyland better, or, transportation better, and making sure the customer who calls you will actually buy it, and so on, which is all important problems. But here is a problem, which is just making women disappear, right? And how do we solve this? So I put up a proposal to see if we can solve this problem within my lab itself as an exploratory budget. I discussed with some of my Palo Alto colleagues. I remember L.K. Mesta, one of my friends. He was working in imaging. I said, okay, I read up about breast cancer and so on. I said, mammography is there. Why is it not catching cancer early? Then, and is there any other way we can actually, have you seen any other imaging? And he said, I've read a paper where people have tried to use thermal sensing. And I just Googled again, figured out about thermal sensing, started learning about that. And then I was very fascinated. There was this technique which is completely radiation free. It doesn't even touch the person, instead of sort of getting compressed with mammo, where X-rays are passed from top to bottom and so on. And why is this not being used? It's such a wonderful tool. And somebody in 1980s itself said it seems to be working, right? And then I figured out accuracy was the main thing. And it's like I had this hammer of AI. I was heading the AI lab. Why can't we use AI? So first we had to have some data to do it. So I set up a collaboration with Manipal Hospital, KMC Manipal. And
this was while you were in Xerox.
In Xerox in the beginning itself. And then got about 70 patients' data. I asked the doctor, can I image 2 people? And he said, yeah, tomorrow 2 of them are going for surgery. You can image. And then so we imaged them. Then I figured out that there is some signal out here. So why can't I do something about it? Then we actually had to do on about 78 patients, and then tried to figure out, sitting with the doctors, where is the cancer? Can we try and find it with the imaging tools and so on? So that's the initial experiments. Then I realized this is happening across, like I was heading about 30 projects, with, of course, my managers also taking care of daily activities. Among them, this was getting only my weekend time or at late night time. Then I said, I need to quit and do this full time if I really want to make a difference in this space, right? As my misfortune would have, around that time, one of my other cousins from my husband's side, basically, she got detected with breast cancer again, 38 years, and she died on her son's birthday. This was a huge, huge thing, saying, you're not staying here. I just quit. I had a lot of discussions with my management. I have to quit. And there were a lot of strategic changes happening. They wanted me to stay for some time, make sure everybody is settled before I quit. It took me 6 months to come out of the company, but I resigned, came out, and started full-fledged Niramai in 2017 January. So it's been 7 years, amazing experience trying to make a difference in the lives of people. And I didn't know anything about breast cancer when I started it. I just had to read up everything, discuss with people to understand. I didn't know anything about running a business. I was a techno manager. Funding was never an issue. The ecosystem has been very kind, and I've learned so many things from so many people in the last 7 years. And here we are, where we have developed a new method of detecting breast cancer from India, and also approved both in US and Europe, and now appreciated all over the world.
Transitioning from being a research scientist to an entrepreneur, can you share some of the challenges that you saw right away when you started? I mean, how I understand you not being completely aware of breast cancer, but I'm sure that was not the only challenge. I mean, just transitioning itself.
Yeah, many challenges, right? First and foremost, I had quit the job and come out, and every camera costed 25 lakh rupees, right? Where do I get? It's not like you write a proposal, I want a camera, and it comes next day. That's how it is in a full multinational sort of, setup, right? Here, we had to raise funds, So, thankfully, I had motivated 3 of my team members to join me. And one of them, also, I invited her to be a co-founder. Nidhi was there. So she had worked in a startup before, so she knew a little bit about how startup works and so on. And thankfully, I was also trained in Kellogg's Chicago, thanks to Xerox for sponsoring me. So I had learned the theoretical aspects of it. But when you actually jump on the ground, you have to really start pitching to investors, to start raise funds. It was fun. And also I was running against a timeline, because some part of the initial thinking was done within the organization. The IP had to be purchased, So, from my previous organization. So I had to raise some really good money within 3 months. I was running on a time this thing as well. So,
But you were able to raise it.
yeah, thankfully within a month we were able to raise $1 million. Thanks to the idea, thanks to our profile as a team, and I guess the real fire in me, literally, I'm sure, passion showed up. I'm going to do this, because if I quit a very big job and come out, then I'm serious about it. So these are some of the things that the investors saw, and obviously it was a new method that we were proposing, and they were willing to take the risk to make a difference, right? And so that was a first and foremost challenge. You had a question.
So tell me, you decided to quit your job, you started Niramai, and you knew that it wasn't going to be very easy to convince people to adapt, especially something like an AI. It might have been, I see that even now, although AI is becoming a part of our lives, and probably this is how the world is going to be, but I think it still remains a buzzword.
Yeah.
What made you believe that this is going to work? One. Second, you were entering a market where cost has always been, the thing. Not just forget the healthcare. In general, we are a very cost-sensitive market, and there are reasons for being so. And third, and pardon me asking multiple questions, but breast cancer, and I think we discussed this in the earlier part of our conversation about the stigma. I understand that there is a passion to do this. What made you believe that this will work?
I think as a scientist, first thing is you have to prove to yourself that this is a direction, right?
Yeah.
It's not about proving to others. You have to prove to yourself. So the two patients that we scanned first, and then the 70 patients I had looked at, I did see the potential. And then over time, you start developing a diligence, right? Saying which idea works, which idea doesn't work, because you're leading a team and so on and so forth, right? So those are some of the things I think I can take it for granted, but that's more like the gut, right? That this will, there is something in here. But I was ready to take the risk. And I remember talking to my HR and saying, I'm going to try this for 2 years. If I'm not able to make any difference, I'll stop and then go join another job. It's okay. We'll get it. But let's try it. And if I don't try it, after having started this exploration, nobody else is going to do this. I felt like pretty magnanimous. Like, if I don't do it, nobody else will do it, And also maybe it's the joy of fixing. And I want to fix it. I don't want somebody else to I don't want to complain and throw it on somebody else to fix it. That angle was coming. It's so strong in me. And I had proven to myself that there is something in this direction that I was going. Looking at the 78 patients, that was sufficient. Definitely, it was not all. There was a lot more to be thought through in building this solution. How does it sit inside a hospital, etc. So one other thing that they did was Kiran Madhumja ma'am, right, who's the Biocon MD. I was invited for a panel discussion, and she was giving a keynote before that. Again, it happened to be in IISC. And I went for the panel discussion. And before that, there was a 15-minute break. And she was just taking tea or something. So I just rushed, and then I wanted to bounce off this idea with her. Because she's sort of built such a big organization, and she's one of the role models for many, many women who want to do new stuff. So, and I was like passionately saying, ma'am, we have done this and I feel it can make a difference. So you have another company, can you just take it through your, I was still in Xerox at that time. And she said, Geetha, you have so much passion. Why do you want somebody else to do it? You can do the startup. She gave me, the first person who said, you yourself can jump off and do it. I said, yeah, why not? And then that is also another trigger. Like a senior person in that area also feels there is some potential in this. I think you don't really require more and more validation, but some of this really helped me believe in this more, right? And of course, I discussed with one of the hospitals as well, potential. And so I just said, okay, let me try this out, and just jumped off, right?
You said what you were doing with HP, followed by Xerox, AI, but we are now trying to bring AI into healthcare at that point in time. And I think one of the biggest, and even till today, people discuss is data privacy,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to patients, right? Um, and I think it must be something which you are tackling even today. Um, Talk me through that process of how you were able to, when you started building the product. Uh, I think everyone, all of our listeners would want to know that process.
Yeah.
How?
So, bit of a background on the data privacy part. Again, it's just luck that I was part of the overall global Xerox uh, data privacy group, right, to frame the processes within Xerox. At that time, when GDPR, all that was coming, I was part of. So, I had seen what are the sort of the key aspects that we need to be worried about, right, as a developer or a manufacturer.
But in the US, they
about
do
this.
have very stringent data privacy
Correct.
laws.
So I had
vis-a-vis our
exposure
country.
to that, right?
Yeah.
Exposure to that. But when we started off, the product in India itself, first and foremost is how is this algorithm going to be used by people? What is the tangible way that you can do it, right?
Okay.
So first is to understand how is it being done today, right? How is the cancer screening being done today, and which kind of hospitals may be able to provide this solution, and so on and so forth. So formulating this product specification was the first and foremost one, right? So it actually involved over time defining the process of taking the image itself, because there was nobody who was confidently doing thermal imaging in India. I actually had connected with one doctor, only one doctor, Dr. Ramprakash sir, who had done about 300, 400 scans as a radiologist, because he got curious and he got the machine. So I sat with him, understood how he did, but we realized that there is a refinement in the way we capture the image itself that needs to be done. Once that is done, then the images are uploaded to the cloud. Everything is about cloud, right? Like google.com and facebook.com. We made like thermalytics.com. So you kind of need to upload. And there are a bunch of web-based steps we gave to the technician, who is going to be the imaging, the person who's doing the imaging and uploading the images. And all the smarts will happen behind the cloud, and the analysis happens, the report is generated. Then the question is, why would a hospital take a report that is generated by AI and give it off to the patient? What are the concerns they would have? So I discussed with it so happened I was giving a talk, and then there was head of BMS hospital, like he was the chairman of the board. He was there, Hemant sir. He walked in and said, "This is wonderful idea. How can I help you? Do you need some money?" I said, by then I had already raised money. He said, "If you're going to help me, can you allow me to place it in your hospital? As a first reference customer, because that's when we will know what else we need to fine tune, right?" And he said, "Obviously, you have to pass through my board, and there are a bunch of very, very smart doctors." We said, "Okay." So the first question the doctors had was the liability of it. I will give this report, and if it is wrong, then the hospital takes the liability. Then I thought, how do we do this? So I went back to Dr. Ramprakash sir, and I said, "Okay, can you sign my report?" Because he knew how to read thermal images. He was the only one. He said, "If you generate the report," I asked him, "doesn't matter if my report is saying positive or negative. You just look at the image and write your comments. It's okay. Let those numbers be there, so that we know that to the end user, we are not doing anything wrong, right?" So I said, okay. But then we saw that over time that we were actually giving many results which were what he was thinking it should be. That was matching as well. So we took on the liability of the hospital by having the signature of our doctor to put in there. That was the first step. So when they saw that we are giving signed report by a radiologist, it was easy for them to start providing to the end user. Obviously, users were benefited, because otherwise they would have just had a hand-based examination which detects only stage 3 cancer. So there was definitely benefit for the end user. And there was a completely another interesting thing happened when we were developing this product, was that we were into a small accelerator program with like 6 lady founded startups, and we said, why don't we try each other's product on like each other, like being our own guinea pig, or make the others our guinea pig.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So I was supposed to do screening for my friend, right? And it was like she has to remove her clothes, and I'm standing there. I don't want to see her without clothes, and she doesn't want me to clothe. So I said, why don't we put a curtain in between? So there was this camera or infrared camera. That's what we use for thermal. And then that is connected to the laptop. So I put a screen between. Just I remember I just took the shower curtain from home and tied it in the office. And I was one side and she was another. Bingo. That is the major feature of Niramai that is being accepted today, which is no see, no touch, no pain, no radiation. It evolves over time, where now we have now created a booth-like structure with 4 curtains. The lady is inside, technician is outside. She goes in, she closes the curtain and then removes her clothes. No one is inside. There's no other breast screening test where this can happen today, right? And so like that, as we move forward, we spoke to the doctors. The doctor said, I showed the report and said, we are giving all these AI numbers. Will that help? No. I'm used to 1 to 10. 10 is bad, 1 is good. You have to give me something like that, right? So then we came up with another innovation of how to convert deep learning to an explainable deep learning. And so we started giving scores in the report itself and so on. So best thing is to build the product and take it in front of potential customers. When you're taking it to the potential customers, make sure that the customers are not at loss. That is, you don't do anything wrong to the end user, because it's not about your technology. It's about them first. User in the center. User has to be the central point. They are the king, whatever, right? So that's the king or queen, right? That's how it is, right? So when you start doing it around that space, keeping all the sort of cushions, in the right places, then you can refine in a way that it really helps the end user and you move forward in the right direction. There will always be experimentations that you have to do for the product, but do it in the right direction.
How do you handle 3 things? 1, privacy, data protection, the informed consent.
From the beginning, whether we are doing a screening camp in a rural area with Karnataka Cancer Society or doing screening in a hospital like BMS Hospital, first thing we brought into the picture, because we were doing something very, very new, very, very different, we brought into the picture of user consent. And basically, we have forms where we say thermal imaging is radiation free. Nothing's going to happen to me if I take this imaging, and this data may be used for research purposes, and I provide the consent, to do this. So this we drafted. Of course, we passed this through the lawyers and got that 1-pager done. And obviously, when people who are coming for screening see a new type of machine, they'll ask what it is. So we trained the technician to explain the process. It is just taking the images of you. These images are just temperature maps and not real images of the breast when they're not wearing clothes. So we also show some images of earlier patients saying this is the kind of thing where your face is not visible, your body parts are not visible, just temperature maps are visible. So this is the informed consent part. So we talk to the patient, inform them about what's happening, and take their consent.
And you are personally present when these conversations happen? Do you have a team of people?
So initially I was doing, like me and a couple of my colleagues, we were doing the screening all the time. Right?
Okay.
The first 3 to 4 months, we had a very small team. So only ladies, I said only ladies will do the screening. No men doing screening, though it's all covered all over the place. But we want to enable only lady technicians doing fully. Girl technicians actually right now. And so yeah, I have had this conversation. We know what are the types of things to say, and that's what we wrote. And now, of course, I have like 45-member team who goes down and does the screening and so on. I do it only when I go international. If I have to do the screening, I'll do it myself. So, but the idea is to sort of make sure that we have the consent of the person. So every screening camp, we may not have if we are screening 40 people, we may not have 40 pages. At least there'll be information as one, and we take the different signatures like registration form. They're happy to provide the signature. So this is first, and we do it everywhere, even now, right? Unless of course they are taking the test in a hospital and they've already registered into a hospital, they're paying to the hospital to do this. There is a consent which is implicit in paying for it before doing it, right? So that is up to the hospitals to do it. Now, the second...
But hospitals do use your product, right?
Yeah. We have it in 200 plus locations in 30 cities in India. This is used in 8 countries today as well. So it is being used in hospitals also.
So in that case, the consent is basically taken by the hospital itself.
We have a distributor agreement or a hospital MSA sales agreement where we say you have to take consent.
And you also make sure that all of those processes which you follow are followed by the hospital to the T.
We provide it as a part of a training and we have it in the agreement. We can't police them, right? But we have it in the agreement that they have to do it and they have signed saying they will do it. And whenever possible, we keep checking that they do it. And
some kind of an audit at your end?
Yeah, we can audit as a part of the agreement also. We can audit them when needed.
And the patients who come, they know that they are using the Niramai product, right? For the screening?
Yes. Yeah. It could be white label also, but they know because the report will always have our logo. And that's needed. Then only we can claim our accuracies and so on, right? Otherwise, there'll be a lot of these smaller startups trying to do some thermal and, we can claim regulatory clearance, we can claim clinical efficacy based on the papers and so on. So only if our logo is there. So that's the first informed consent part of it. And as I said, report will have the logo, report will have all the disclaimers as to clinical correlation needed. And that's part of the general medical ethics that we do. And the data that we take, initially we were not even taking the name of the person or even phone number or any of those. We were only giving the patient ID, which is kind of, in the signature form, right? We put the patient ID name, there it's taken, but only the patient ID is typed in the tool, right? And so even if somebody looks at the image on the back end, they don't know whose it is, right? You just have the patient ID like P001, something like that, right? Which is, so that's how it was throughout in the first 2 to 3 years. But later what happened was we were generating patient reports. It said P0001 and the patient got this, 24-year-old or 34-year-old, this number. And she was saying, like, I don't know whether it's mine or my mother's or like sisters. I have to just do it with the age. Please put the name, right? So we then enhanced the consent saying we will use your personal information only to generate reports for you, only to convey health status information for you. So we added
the
that
privacy comes.
Privacy part of it as the PII, personally identifiable information, we say. So that if they want. And if some of the hospitals don't want us to do it, for example, when we did this, when our customer in Dubai, right, they don't want to even now give the name of the person to us, right, because it's across the geography. So they have their own tool to sort of insert the name later after they get the patient. So it depends. If the customer is okay to share that with us, we generate the report here itself with the name of the patient. Otherwise, our tool does not require the name of the patient, including the name or any other information.
It's only more from a convenience for the patient.
Convenience and identification of the report to the person. That is it. More patient asks for it. That's why we put it. So this is the other part. That is, we don't take any PII information to the cloud itself. The third part, and this happened after we wanted to be GDPR compliant as well, because we went for international regulatory clearances for, like, we have CE mark.
What is GDPR compliant?
So that is Global Data Protection Regulation, which is mostly followed by EU, right? So here we have to make sure that the data is transferred not in clear, that is encrypted data transfer, encrypted data storage has to be maintained. So when we transfer the data from the client browser to the cloud, also it's encrypted and going in there. When it goes and sits to the database as well, it is encrypted and saved, right? So that we completely maintain. And not only that, even if the name and phone number or email ID of the patient has been taken because we have to convey the report, after it is typed in, if she goes back to the same screen, she cannot see the number or email. It's like ******. No one else can see the email ID, even on the screen when they're typing in, right? So these kind of things, right? Encryption is like through and through.
Although it could be a EU mandate, but that's something which you follow everywhere.
Everywhere. Right? We follow everywhere, right? Because after that, actually, India came up with DPTP law. Yes. This we've been doing for last 6 years, right?
Which is a great thing, because I was talking to my friend who's a lawyer, and he said that the new privacy law really, I think it was need of the hour, considering the kind of data leaks which have been happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget healthcare part of it. Across the board. How do you see the future of patient care especially with the integration of AI?
I'm very excited about the role of AI in healthcare. And I already mentioned about how AI in the clinical healthcare part of it, right, can bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots and enable high accuracy, high quality healthcare to everyone, right? And healthcare is the last segment, literally, I think, which is getting affected with technology, getting affected in a positive way with AI, right?
Right.
And so there's so much more to be done, so much more to be done. And for example, every type of disease, right, requires some kind of a data crunching, which you cannot leave it to the doctor alone because the doctor is already swamped with so many patients. Every patient, nowadays you have so much data about every patient, like people are wearing, the wearables, every day, how many steps they counted, what was their breathing rate, every second, everything you have that information. More and more data you have about the person, you can utilize it for their own benefit, and you can have more precise, what we call as precision healthcare, right? Precise way of treating the person because every person is different, right? So that is possible only if we have some kind of a tool support to look at tons of data about the person and having some suggestions to the doctor to make the right call about the treatment. So, for example, for treatment planning, and more importantly, we talked about how early detection can help in enabling the treatment to be more effective and also reduce treatment costs. So, in order to do the early detection, let's say for cancer, right? Cancer can happen anywhere in the body. How do you know where the problem is? Imaging is the only way, right? And images read by human experts, currently radiologists, right, has limitation because the human eye has limitations. So that is another big area where AI can make a huge difference to reduce missed diagnosis and misdiagnosis. That is overdiagnosis and missing cancers. And these are all scientifically proven as to how many percentage increase in sensitivity, ability to detect cancer, and specificity, ability to say no cancer, right, can be increased by adding AI into it. Still, the world is looking at where exactly should we put AI? Should we use this as a second doctor, as a second opinion? Should we use it as a third opinion? In UK, it's still a third opinion right now. Like there are two doctors all the time they look at because they don't believe in single doctor looking at an image. So now the AI also has come in. So that experimentation of where exactly not really the replacement, the complementarity of this machine-based analysis can be used is still under different studies to figure out where exactly it works.
Where does India fit in?
In India, I think for screening, we don't have enough doctors at all. So it can be an excellent triaging tool where it can be automatically, if tested well, right? If tested really well, can automatically determine among these 1,000 people who are those 20 people that need to be brought to the hospital.
Does it scare you that not enough doctors and leaving a large part of it to technology, we might somehow...
I'm scared about developers not taking all the controls while developing the AI model. And I'm scared about the different way of authorization that India can provide, which is not always scientific in nature. There are like shortcuts that, some of our systems provide.
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Driving license. Not every time people have to drive and get the driving license. There are alternate ways of getting it in India. I really pray and hope that will not come into the regulatory clearances that people are getting for the medical devices. That is what I'm more scared about. If people the developers follow all the controls that are needed. For example, whenever I'm giving a talk, I keep saying how to test an AI model for healthcare. It is not a lab test saying 90% accuracy. It is about that, yes, after that go test it out in a prospective setting. A person comes in, you test, give the result, and the same person goes and does the rest of the test. And then you compare with the right golden truth, right? In a prospective manner, not knowing all the answers, and you hack the system to get give the best result and then publish it. I have seen how scientists write paper, including myself, right? That's a different way of writing papers. Writing papers is different, but when you want AI to work on the ground, the type of testing we have to do, the type of rigor we have to keep in the type of training we want to do is very different.
Do we as a country, do we have all of the uh, legitimate tools to do these testing? Are we equipped enough to make sure that these tests are done?
It's really about the developers ensuring the right kind of training and testing is done during the development. It's less of a tool, but it has to be a skill of the regulatory people, right? Governance bodies to say, yes, this is the AI model which has gone through it. And the best tool that most scientists use and should use is peer-reviewed publications. That is, you write up how it is done, how the testing was done, and then publish it or submit it to a sort of international journal where we have experts reviewing it and then giving a go ahead for it.
And also the kind of people who sit in these governance boards is
Correct.
very important, right?
Correct.
You probably have bureaucrats out there. So I think that part is, I mean, what I'm beginning to understand now.
Yes, and it's changing. In India also, we have excellent ethics committee. They say.
Yes.
Every hospital has a institutional ethics committee, which is multidisciplinary. About 10 to 15 people will be there from even patient counseling, psychologist, doctor, oncologist, depending upon the area, field of statistician, whether enough number of patients have been tested to claim these results. And these institutional ethics committees are also independent bodies. They may not include people from the hospital, right? So all of that is coming into the place. And the governance bodies should ensure that these things have been done during the testing of the AI model. If that is done, I think, India has an excellent way of leapfrogging and enabling preventive healthcare with maybe one AI model for every disease. So there's so much to do, right? Every cohort we can have different, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things and I'm actually very excited about it. Only thing that I'm worried about is right kind of governance.
Okay. You did mention about something in the governance group, which is psychologist. I think when it comes to diseases like cancer, mental health and making sure that it's not just about the best of technologies and the best of treatment. And if you could also, and I feel that mental health is an important conversation to have. We have that between us all the time. Especially with a new kind of treatment like yours. Is there some kind of a process? Do you have a panel of mental health experts who converses with the patients or, brings them up to speed with, how this new form of screening could help them? Because, it's very hard when it hits you for the first time that you've got this. That itself takes a lot of, having seen closely in my own family, I know that when it hits you, even before the treatment starts, you have to be mentally prepared. That, I think a lot of it also has to do with your belief system that, yes, I want to get better. I really want to go through this process.
Absolutely. Knowing somebody has cancer as the result of a screening test is the worst ever news in their life, right? A person has to be really strong to take it, first of all. And then the mental stamina that they will fight it. And that mental stamina is also coupled with awareness about how curable cancer is. It is important. It's not a death sentence. So this awareness aspect is very important. But talking about how we kind of do this, first and foremost, we in our reports never mention cancer in our report. We say there is an abnormality, or even that we don't mention many times. We just say follow up with breast ultrasound recommended in left breast upper inner quadrant. Our tools are tuned towards highest sensitivity. That is not to miss any cancer. But there could be false positives. And so initially when we were discussing, we realized how accurate, the challenge of accuracy for AI, especially for cancer screening, is very, very high. It's like walking on a thin rope. You can't err on the positive side, calling too many people as positive because they get into psychological issues. Oh my God, they ho-ha karke. We can't even miss cancer. So it has to be extremely highly sensitive and highly specific. You can't have 0-0. right? Not missing cancer or not getting it's not possible even for a human, definitely not for a tool which is trained by a human. So but we discussed with multiple doctors and we figured out that it is important to catch cancer, because that is when we bring them to the hospital diagnostic sort of workflow, and then biopsy is the final decision maker, right? So now the way we position this and message this also, we say, yes, there could be false positives. And initially what we and some of the psychologists said, like, there shouldn't be any false positives, she'll get into psychological literature. On the contrary, what we're saying is, because there are false positives, people are comfortable taking our test, even if it says yes, it may not be yes. See, you want to be in that false hope. It's okay. It could be false hope, or it could be true that she doesn't have cancer. So that has become a good thing for people. Say we identify, if there is any problem, we'll identify. That means when we say no, it's a no. But when we say yes, it may not be yes. You need to go for further. That's all. It's in the best interest of you. People like that positioning a lot, because even if there is a positive news, they are not alarmed. And they take the next necessary step. But this is something that we have seen.
Do you also have thoughts around bringing in more counselors on your team?
Yeah. Even now we have, like, every report, she can come back and say, even if it is normal, some people they get psyched. It's saying normal, but it's showing 0.1 here what it is. Some people have. So we have 2 counselors who will always explain the report if the patient wants to, talk to them. So we have a page where they say, I want to talk, the patient needs a counselor, so she'll call and talk. Even now we have that. But I think where we are going with more and more, they call patient navigators, especially in rural healthcare, is to give them enough knowledge when they're found to be positive. They need to go and take the follow-up diagnostic workup. And here we have counselors from their own communities, so that they can...
It's easier to
communicate. They're easy to express any concerns they have. And many times we say, if you don't want others to know, we'll never tell anybody about this one. The secrecy element also. So many of these, we are looking at it, and we many times partner with cancer societies and people who are trained in counseling.
Even for that matter, cancer survivors could be
absolutely.
Right?
You're right.
For what you just mentioned to me, I mean, before we started the podcast, you spoke about 100 rupees, right? That's a huge thing, especially in villages or small towns, and for that matter, even in the cities. Do you feel the approach of Niramai has to be slightly more different in the way you communicate or in the way you connect with these patients?
Yeah. So we initially, when we started, we had like one type of report, which has like 3 pages. As a scientist, I wanted everything that AI could do should be shown to the end user.
It's hard to decipher, right? For
all of
people.
that, the images, marking, scores, everything. And that's what the hospitals needed it. And that the hospital started charging about 1,500 rupees per scan, which is still like less than half of mammography charges, right? So that's what it is. And it was very clear to me that will not fly in a village, right? Because that's something we want to do, make a difference. That's the area where we want to make a difference. And so we thought about, and this is something that we have commended even by Harvard Business Review, we thought about differentiated pricing for differentiated information. What we do is we have 3 types of reports, patient reports, right? There's full-fledged 3-page report with images, markings, scores, explanations, everything, which is given in a hospital setting. Then there's another one who wants to be in hospital setting, but they cannot pay that much. They want to pay half of it. Remove the images. No images, the rest of the things come in.
The process is the same.
Process is the same. Answer is the same.
Out.
The amount of information that is given to the user. If you want the images as well, then you click a button and then you pay extra and take it. Because you have to have that price differentiation to be sustainable, right? From a hospital standpoint also. Yeah. And also, many patients take it seriously only if like more information is available and so on and so forth, right? So some people are willing to pay for more information. And then on the other hand, in the village scenario where there's no printer to print, there is also even a doctor's review is very difficult to get in, because again, then I still remember the Sharada Ma of my first camp, right? There were 2 Sharada Mas, one was positive, and I couldn't go back and find her because They just disappear. They give some address and go. You have to have instant reporting there. That means you cannot have a doctor. So instant reporting, red, yellow, green automatically given so that the technician who's doing it looks at red, yellow, green and she knows what kind of action to be taken. So this is less than 100 rupees per person. And we don't even charge the end user. We find sponsors for it. So it is free of cost for this, right? So that we were able to do. But the hospital person is not going to crib that you're getting 100 rupees per person here because that's just a red, yellow, green, simple visa thermal printed sheet, which he or she cannot give it in a hospital setting. So that report is not usable in a hospital. Hospital report is not usable in the rural area, but they pay for what they get, right? So this is something that we were able to achieve. And even now it's one of the, so we have 3 product models, like you have a fridge with double door or whatever, all those kind of things. It's a feature, right? This is something we were able to bring to the healthcare and enable, differentiated pricing to the requirement of the end user.
And what it really does, to my understanding, is that when you have this differentiated pricing, it also allows more and more people to adapt.
Yeah,
Like, that
just expands the
yes.
scale of operations.
Policymakers today, regulations, especially when it comes to AI. And I think there's a global debate happening around AI in general. And to me, AI in healthcare, while absolutely positive in the way we can probably change healthcare treatment happens, it's also a bit scary for a lot of people out there. What do you think, you as an innovator, policymakers and regulators, and third, but the most important, which is the world of news, broadcasting, social media, how do you think the roles should be?
It's a good question, actually. So, first and foremost, the regulators, it would be good, at least in the regulatory council, at least a couple of them are AI developers themselves. They know what kind of tricks that AI developers may take to do this so that they can actually plug the holes appropriately. For example, the most stringent regulatory body for healthcare, is US FDA, right? And it's arguable. Some people say even China, but let's say US FDA, which is sort of pretty very well known for its diligence, right? Has now only approved AI, clinical AI in healthcare, in the concept of a locked model. That means, as you know, AI models can become better over time as more and more data and information is available.
Which holds true for technology as such, right?
Yes, AI particularly is becoming better. It's like artificial intelligence, more and more data. It can, over time, it can learn and become better, right? Now, this learning is limited to the development. Today, even US FDA allows only fully tested AI software to only be released. The difference is AI in development versus AI in production. So when we say AI in production, it can learn on its own, like online learning, etc. That is still not regulatory cleared. There is no AI model today in the world which can learn on its own and continue to be regulatory cleared, right? AI today is used almost as a software development tool, where every software goes through a testing cycle, and then once it passes all the tests, then only it is released.
Right. The design, development, prototype.
Exactly. So the AI, even if it is learning with additional data, is going through the testing cycle and then released only if it is performing well. So AI today is limited to the development of software today, and that has to transition to AI on the go. But at this point in time, I don't know what kind of controls we can place from a regulatory standpoint. That is a big question mark. And because it's not learning on its own, it's tested, patients and doctors can be rest assured that it is doing the right thing. Like any other, there's so much of software, even in your ultrasound machine, mammography machine, your CT scans. There's a lot of software. It's just inside it, right? And now AI that is being used today in healthcare is exactly like that. It is fully tested. It's inside. It is well woven. And they can be rest assured that these kind of tested AI software models will work just like any other machine out there is working today, right? That is the sort of the consoling thing, if you will, right?
Regulators, policymakers.
Policymakers as well, yes.
Yeah.
I mentioned.
And the third most important, and I think they are really playing a big role in our lives, knowingly, unknowingly, and which is the way this information is being disseminated.
Media, yeah. I think that's a very big
Especially
segment.
with the advent of social media.
Yes. So I think there is this sort of misinformation that is spread.
Mm-hmm.
AI will replace all doctors. Doctors will become, useless, whatever. This actually creates one, scare in the patients, scare in the doctors, and insecurity in the doctors. And most importantly, it is stalling development in that direction because they are not talking to each other. Technologists and doctors are not talking to each other, assuming that, the doctors assuming the technology will replace them and so on. So this is not true. You talked about empathy, right? AI tools will only be supplementing, helping, or more as tools to the doctors. Doctors are going to become more and more efficient, more and more productive, more and more correct in diagnosing, right?
As a tool, because it's going to help you as a tool.
Right, just like they're using so many other tools today, right? True. Without a stethoscope, they don't know what is the heart rate, for example, right? So it's a similar thing. It has to be taken as a tool. And the most famous quote that came in RSNA, the largest radiology conference 2 years ago, was that radiologists using AI will replace radiologists not using AI. So that is how the replacement may happen. Mm-hmm. You have to adopt the change, right? You can't say I will go on in my cart when there are speed cars going on the road. So in the same way, right, the change is inevitable. It is going to happen, but the change is not going to replace doctors. There are instances like where a human being is playing the role of the empathetic person who is conveying the news, like the technician powered by AI tool to triage, because otherwise she's just using hand examination as doing the decision anyway. Right? So it depends on what is the current status and how it's moving to the next place in terms of how exactly AI is used in that situation. But AI is only going to help human beings, become better, healthier, use their time for their own leisure in a better way, in a personalized way, and so on and so forth.
And I think social media has a very important role to play in this, especially in terms of its reach. And somehow it's probably not being done correctly.
Yeah, the veracity of information, right?
Yes.
If it is your favorite heroine who is talking about it, it doesn't mean it's always right. Yeah. So I think there more and more the person becomes influencer in the social media. They are more and more responsible for saying the right thing, right? I think that's another. We talk about veracity of data, right? So that becomes very, very important. Again, it is an ethics question, right? Yeah. Do I want to be famous because many people are watching my reels, or do I want to make sure that this advantage that I have, I use it for the right thing?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot more to talk, but we will. So that's why we've broken up our podcast into 3 different segments.
Okay.
Since the segment is what's brewing, if I were to ask you a hypothetical question, if I was to be a fly on the wall where your core research team is meeting up, what are the things I would hear? What kind of conversations are happening in your research team? If you can share some of them.
Yeah, I mean, so sweet. So basically, we are talking about how do we detect cancer, not just in breast, in several other parts of the body. How can we use this methodology of thermal scanning with AI for not just for cancer? We realize that we can even do pain management. Like, where is the pain? You don't know whether it started in the shoulder or the neck, to figuring out the source of pain, measuring pain, because I may say it's very painful, and same thing maybe, of course, it's like, it's not so painful to you, right? It's very subjective, but can we objectively measure pain with this? So essentially looking at use of thermalytics, as we call it, thermal analytics, as a new way of detecting abnormalities in the body. So this is something that we talk about, and we're working towards that for diabetic foot. Figuring out if there's any issue, any of different head and neck cancer, be it skin cancer, several other type of cancers, pain management, as I mentioned. Why only humans, right? Can we figure out what's going wrong with a veterinary, like an animal or a bird?
That is so wonderful.
Yeah, because they are not able to express where the pain is, and can we actually see this, without touching and this? So this is the direction we talk about from a science and product perspective. We also talk about how to expand it, and this is a one-liner every person in my team will know. We need to reach every lady on earth, right? How do we expand collaboration? We are a small startup sitting in the corner of Bangalore. How do we reach every nook and corner of the world? Because we really believe that this can save so many lives, more than 2,000 lives every day. That's the opportunity we are talking about, just with breast cancer. So we also talk about how to scale, what kind of collaboration that we can do to scale this up, and so on and so forth as well. And a lot of such things around. And we have a wonderful, passionate team with young kids who have left their very, very well-paying job, or not going for a well-paying job, but staying with us, because we are all on the mission.
How large is the team right now?
We are 65 people core and about 45 on the ground, basically doing all the screening.
So 65 are the scientists, are the researchers?
No, it's a mix of science, business, clinical, regulatory, everybody inclusive. Yeah. I'm a single founder for the last 5 years.
And that's
I have
awesome.
wonderful leadership team. One heading the enterprise segment, which is the health, like institutions like hospitals. Then I have a chief operating officer who takes care of the outreach in Asia, Africa. I have another person taking care of Europe, another person taking care of US, and two wonderful founding team members from a tech standpoint who had AI scientists, that is the data science team and the product team, whom I just mentor. They are now on their own, Shivani Manju.
Awesome. So another important question when it comes to what's brewing, besides all of these technological advancements, what kind of societal changes do you hope to, catalyze through your work in the healthcare space?
I think, when I started and I wanted to give a talk on this, they would ask me, what's the title? Say, using machine learning for breast cancer detection. By the time it appeared in the agenda, breast disappeared. Using machine learning for cancer detection. So, because there was a taboo word, that using that word itself was a taboo word. And so I just said, you can talk about your hand and leg, why not breast? So I used to do this sort of, more and more. I used to purposely use that word more and show the images, thermal images and so on. Because I think if a part of the body can take away your life, why are we hesitating to use or talk about it? This is something, and I think we come a long way now. These kind of things don't happen. Even yesterday, I was in a government hospital. Said they have come to discuss women health. I said, okay, fine, chalo, it's still there, right? So, but it's okay. So I think some people are comfortable, especially younger kids are happy to sort of go on Instagram and talk about the test they took, and spread this. And I'm very hopeful about what this young crowd can do in spreading awareness about the right, awareness issues that people were facing so far. So that's just a mindset change, about this whole concept of women health is another thing that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing that to change.
Do you feel that these mindset changes are happening because of technology, or do you feel that I feel so partially because technology allows you to connect people from across the globe?
Yeah,
so the
technology
conversations
from a
are more.
sense of communication, social media, definitely, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a huge potential of changing. And usually women were prioritizing their health last. If son or husband is sick, then they were given higher importance than, I can be sick forever and I never sort of even talk about it. Now I'm seeing that a little bit changing because again, there's awareness, there's social media, people are on social media as well. So they are able to express the need for their own, any issues they're talking about it and so on. Something that is becoming more and more. We are seeing more so in urban, yet to hit the rural parts. So this, I think, is important change that, as you said, technology, social media is making a huge difference, and we want to see more and more about people taking their health in their hands.
True.
So those.
I think what I really see is uh, because I am really fortunate to work with a very young team. I mean, young, both from an age perspective and also from the way they think and look at things. And I think they're not shy. They don't shy away from discussing their personal and mental wellness. We go to the next segment, and I think this is one of my favorite segments, which is what truly matters to you personally as an entrepreneur, as a woman.
So at this point in time, I'm like just one goal in front of me. How do we make or even stop breast cancer deaths? So that kind of a thing.
That's your single-minded goal.
Single-minded goal, and for that, whatever it takes, right? If you detect early, I know you can save so many people. How do we ensure that all of them benefit from this? So that's a sort of a huge single-minded goal. Having said that, there are many of these side effects when I'm going full on, despite several challenges, right? I'm not from a medical field originally, right? But last 7 years, I only read medical books and cancer books, right? But how does one, when podcasts like this or panel discussions where they say, okay, here is a problem and you're trying to attack this problem, go full on with full confidence. So how can others do this? So when we share the story, if it inspires a bunch of young girls, young entrepreneurs to do the same, they feel like there's some kind of a model that they can follow. Definitely, I'm happy to share my story in these forums. So that's sort of in more like, if it's going to help more such problems to be solved, why not? So because I feel, I use this word. People say hard work. Definitely, if you start loving work, then it's no more hard. It's part of your life. Then people say smart work. Yes, you have to do the right thing at the right time to actually get better results. But I think there's another one which is hard to work, right? Which is basically you think from your heart, and you actually find paths which open up, which just with your brain you probably won't, right? And with that, you actually can innovate to the end user whom we are targeting, like the compassion, the empathy. We can build into the product itself because you are now talking to that person. You want to save that person's life. And for that, technology is one aspect of it. But there's so many other things that we want to weave in, right? So you can look at it like a holistic solution and going and doing things which your head says, don't talk to the doctor. Doctor is not going to, it's okay. They are also human. I'm going to explain to them why this is important, right? Because it was very hard to get even the first few doctors to start recommending this. And now it's different. We have made a difference to almost 2 lakh women. And now they look at the number and say, yes, right? So I think it's really every person has a heart, be it your customer, talk to their heart, right? Then you can actually move even big boulders, right? So many of these I learned, and these stories, if it inspires more, why not? And from women in STEM perspective, I have seen a huge difference. I have sat in a class of 120 people, a single lady in the class, those kind of things. And boardrooms, definitely single person. In all of these cases, I just told myself, forget your gender. I mean, it's very hard otherwise. You start, oh, I'm a lady, I shouldn't be talking. It's not, it's going to be less efficient. You are not going to do your 100%.
For this to also, this kind of mindset to change also, I feel that men should also come forward and support. I mean, it's never a a one-way approach.
Absolutely.
Do you see changes happening, Geetha?
Definitely. I think the changes first has to be in the lady as well, right? In terms of mentality, I used to feel really guilty if I don't help in the sort of homework of my child or something like that. Like the kind of responsibilities we as women think at home, in the kitchen, for the family and all of that. I have gone through that space, and if I have worked extra, it always staying awake later. I mean, late, sleeping at 3 a.m., getting up at 6. These are the things I used to do before, right? Getting over the guilt feeling, because now the society is accepting women doing more than their sort of regular household work. We're able to get over that guilt feeling because of the societal changes. And now, while I was really getting very uncomfortable if my husband walks into the kitchen, now I'm completely comfortable if he says, I'll do the lunch. Right? So I've seen that I think he's always been the same, honestly speaking, such a sweet person. But I think it's me, in my mindset I have changed. And this has happened across different families also. Right?
I think it's interesting you say this, because it all begins with acceptance.
Yeah.
Right? Anything we want to do. One of my takeaways is heart work. With your due permission, I would like to use it some places when I'm having conversations, because that's so true. What you believe.
Yeah, and you can go far. And
Yeah.
another thing that I felt is during this journey, if you're trying to do something with an intent of helping a much larger community, right? Be it, when I was a researcher in India, going and presenting to in the HP or other international conferences, I was not going as Geetha. It's very scary. I mean, it's such a big platform, all different gender, very few Indians in that conference. I went as an Indian. I never thought I was a lady. I was Geetha. I went as an Indian, representing India. Oh, thoda full country behind you. Then you will have all the confidence to face the challenge. And now I can speak to like 10,000 people. I have no hesitation.
Absolutely
right?
sure.
And same way, when here in Niramai, I'm going and saying, I want to, I'm helping so many women. And it's not about Geetha. It's a bigger intent, right? You go with a bigger intent, you see the whole world is trying to sort of help you. You don't see negativity. You see only people positively helping you go through that process, So wonderful. So wonderful.
The one thing I want to really understand is, how do you stay motivated when challenges are thrown at you?
So two things, one, I don't know where I learned this. Whatever happens is for good. What I tell myself. I'm crying, maybe something really bad has happened. It's okay. There's something good that's going to happen. That's why it's happened. You can think faith, blind belief, nothing. It helps me get over it. It's like change is inevitable.
I can completely relate to that, because I believe in my God, my faith.
Exactly.
And I'm always of this belief that at the end of it, it will all be good. And if it isn't, you're still not at the end.
Perfect.
Right?
So every bit of it, every day, anything goes wrong, okay, there's something good that's going to happen. That's why this is happening. Whatever, right? You expect something, it may not happen. That doesn't mean it's bad, right? So that is where. So you also stop expecting. I will not expect anything. I'll just do. So this Bhagavad Gita.
How easy is it for you to not have any kind of expectations when you're doing?
I have learned over time that if you're like that, you actually get better results than what you expect. So I know it is in the Bhagavad Gita that karmanye vadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. You just are responsible. Give 100% to the work in front of you. Don't worry about the result. It's difficult. Sometimes you want it to be positive, but I try not to be sort of so hung up on the result. But I'm very hung up about giving 100%. Very hung up about it. And maybe I trouble my team also. I want like perfection, because then the result has to be good. That's what I believe. And it has taken me till here. Even it could be my bachelor's examination textbook. Like a stupid person now, probably people think I'm stupid. Even I do. The textbook, every word I had to understand. My friends used to say, that section, that chapter never comes in the exam. I don't care. I want to read that. And I used to enjoy it because there is something that the author is writing because they want us to learn that. And I did really well in the exam. I never studied for exams, trust me. And I was just enjoying learning part. So you have to enjoy the process. The result will come. This is something I've seen again and again.
As long as we continue to strive for perfection, we will continue to innovate and grow. I feel when you really begin to think it's perfect, then you probably stop thinking. So the way I look at it is we keep working towards it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think sometimes I feel we are very hard on ourselves, not progressing and
Yeah.
then just questioning and reviewing ourselves. And I try to be sort of hard on the children. Maybe they're not like it. But this is, these are the things, the side effects of it. But you'll have to figure out when to leave it, move forward. This is perfect enough. But yeah, I'm learning that.
You did mention growing up about your father and how he supported you, and now you have your own your family. What role do they play, especially now when you are like, it seems like you're a 24/7 entrepreneur at this point in time.
Oh, I have to thank my family for bearing with me.
Okay.
Especially my husband.
Uh-huh.
So I remember even on my 25th anniversary, I was in US and he was here, and like crazy. Nobody would pardon, but he said, it's fine because you're doing for the good of the people. So I have that support. I have that support even from my extended family. But basically, like my father said, you choose what you like.
Yeah.
That has been my mantra. To the extent, like when they were kids also, are you going to wear a pink frock or a yellow frock? And she's like, you tell me, no, you decide. So this is what I have done from for good or bad. They decide their fate.
What legacy do you hope to leave with Niramai and beyond? What kind of a legacy do you think? And I know it's a long way, and I hope and pray that you continue to work for a long time to come. But if I were to ask you this question,
I don't think about my legacy, to be honest. If people can remember that there was an Indian company which innovated, and it is the screening method in the world, that would be awesome. That's it.
I think we're already there. I think, and it's just going to only grow. I am so, I'm just amazed at the kind of work you're doing, and I pray that you continue to do this work because this is really needed. And I think for me, just like you, we were raised by both our parents. My father would always say God, country, and family. Three things which matters. And me and my brother have grown up with that mindset. And India has so much of potential.
Yeah.
And I know that Niramai what do they say? Just the tip of the iceberg. A lot more to come.
Yeah.
With that, we move to our final segment.
Okay.
Not too many serious questions. It's fun rapid fire.
Okay.
And I hope you enjoy, you have as much fun as I'm going to have with this.
Okay. Don't ask me tough questions.
No. Is there a personal philosophy or principle that guides you?
Whatever happens is for good.
Okay.
Keep learning one thing every day.
Do you ever think about it? What if I would not have pursued this? Do you ever have, or was it always this?
I have not thought about it seriously. Maybe I would have become a musician.
Do you play anything?
I love music. Yeah.
Okay.
As a professional sort of music teacher.
Uh-huh.
So I've studied and played the veena when I was like in school and all of that. I used to enjoy, get buried in it in some sense. But last few years, I haven't been able to do as much as I.
But
want
do
to,
you get to play sometimes?
Yeah, I'll just sing once in a while.
Oh, that's awesome. So maybe in our next podcast, we've got to have you.
Oh, no. I just sing bathroom singer or kitchen singer.
Any practice or ritual which you do daily without fail?
Absolutely. Last 15 years of my life has changed quite a bit in bringing confidence and so on, thanks to Sudarshan Kriya, which is a yoga technique that is taught by Art of Living, Sri Ravi Shankar Guruji. If I don't do that 15-20 minutes, it's a different Geetha. Fully, I have complete, or as much possible, control on the emotions, the way I take things as it comes. Everything is so different. 15 minutes of that pranayam, it's more a breathing exercise, absolutely important for me.
I could not agree more. I started yoga since December of 2022. And I think it's really helped me. Some things is more internalized,
Yeah.
but that's really helped a lot.
You just sort of see more connection to the
Yes.
spiritual.
I think
and all of
we
that.
become more aware of a lot of things around us.
Yeah.
I think you've already answered this. My team has put this. What did you want to be when you were a kid and why? And I think you've answered this. But was
Actually, I never dreamed about being anything when I was a kid.
it?
I just wanted to learn. Like that. That's it.
Mhm.
And I think I keep learning. And whatever is happening, side pe.
Is there a fear you have?
No, I'm not
Mhm.
afraid of anything. I feel God is there to protect me.
Who do you talk to when you get stuck?
To myself.
That's fantastic. Grateful that you could come on this show.
No,
Thank
I
you for
really
supporting
enjoyed the
us.
conversation. It was so comfortable, and you actually got me emotional in between, though I was trying to control. So amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Bright future, and hope your podcast becomes world famous.
So that was Geetha Manjunath, and that was her story. We all have stories. We all tell stories. And the most important story is the story we tell ourselves. And how we tell those stories will shape who we become. Thank you for tuning in from Bangalore. This is our first episode, and it has been nothing but an emotional roller coaster ride for me personally. Do continue to tune into our episodes. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. This podcast was recorded at Manicpod Studios in Chembur, Mumbai. Our sound engineer is Moinak Chakraborty, and our producers are Arnav Dogra and Santosh Kumar. Our associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The video for this episode was processed at Viewfinder's Edit. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.